Tarantino's not shy about his opinions, and when it comes to westerns, he's got very high standards. We're breaking down 10 westerns that the man himself considers perfect. From gunslinging action to unforgettable characters, these are the films that made the cut for one of cinema's toughest critics. If you know Tarantino, you know this is his holy grail of cinema. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly wraps up Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, with Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach locked in an epic standoff that still leaves audiences holding their breath. Tarantino's called it the greatest achievement in the history of cinema. And honestly, who's going to argue with him on that one? This film didn't just influence him. It taught him everything he knows about style, pacing, and the sheer power of tension. Tarantino isn't just a fan of Rio Bravo, he's obsessed. Howard Hawks' classic Western, with its star-studded cast of John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Angie Dickinson, is what QT calls a hangout movie. That means you're not just watching the plot unfold, you're hanging with the characters, getting to know them like old friends. The sheriff, the drunk, and the gunslinger. Yeah, they're your crew for the next 2 hours. Tarantino even tried to capture that same vibe in Jackie Brown.
Tired, aren't you, John T? I can fix you a nice hot bath.
All I want is a drink.
Then, this is all I can do for you?
I told him you were one of the best.
I'll tell you what I'm a lot better at, Mr. Wheeler. That's minding my own business.
This one might surprise you. The Lone Ranger tanked harder than a sinking ship when it hit theaters, earning just $260.5 million against its massive $225 million budget. But Tarantino saw something special in it. Specifically, he called out the epic train sequence as one of the best action set pieces in years. Sure, it got hammered by critics, but Tarantino thinks it was way ahead of its time, and if anyone knows about divisive movies, it's him. Sometimes even a bomb deserves a little love.
He's jammed! Give me a hand! You hold. John?
You think Tarantino loves blood and chaos? You've got Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch to thank for that. This movie redefined violence in westerns, and Tarantino ate it up. The story's all about aging outlaws trying to pull off one last job before the Old West disappears for good. It's messy, brutal, and gloriously over the top. Tarantino's mentioned it as a major influence on his own work, especially when it comes to crafting morally gray characters and explosive finales.
Say that! Shall we gather at the river when bright angels beam kept
This is one of those westerns that flips the genre on its head, and Tarantino loves it for that reason. Robert Altman's McCabe and Mrs. Miller is moody, slow-paced, and refuses to follow the typical Western rules. The result? A hypnotic, haunting tale set in a snowy frontier town. Tarantino has sung its praises, especially for how it challenges what a Western can be, and even called it one of the best Westerns of the 70s. It's not all gunfights and standoffs. Sometimes it's about the slow burn.
Do you have anything to eat? I'm bloody starving.
Well, you have to forgive me. My kitchen ain't in operation yet, but I could take you up to the restaurant up there if you're hungry enough.
I'm hungry enough. I could eat a bloody horse.
Well, at Sheehan's place, you probably will.
Tarantino's love for Sergio Corbucci's Django runs deep. This gritty spaghetti western follows a former soldier caught between American soldiers and Mexican bandits years after the Civil War. At the time, Django stirred controversy for its graphic violence, something that definitely didn't put Quentin off. In fact, he embraced it. Tarantino has praised Django for capturing the raw, tense mood of the post-war era. And Franco Nero, the original Django himself, has a cameo in Django Unchained. Kind of a full-circle moment. Another Sergio Corbucci gem, The Hellbenders, is a dark revisionist road movie about a Confederate family carrying a coffin full of stolen cash in hopes of resurrecting the South. Tarantino loves this one for its sheer moral bleakness. There are no heroes here, just a bunch of scheming, flawed characters. Corbucci's ability to portray a world where everyone is, in Tarantino's words, effed up, makes this film stand out.
Open it.
Please.
Never mind, let it be.
Anthony Mann's Winchester 73 is one of Tarantino's favorite westerns, and for good reason. This movie follows a man on a quest to retrieve his stolen rifle, crossing paths with a rogues gallery of outlaws and scoundrels along the way. Tarantino has often praised Anthony Mann's direction, calling him one of the greatest Western filmmakers of all time. He particularly admires the tension Mann builds in Winchester 73, a classic tale of vengeance with a killer cast led by Jimmy Stewart.
Steve, what are you gonna do?
Right ahead and find help.
Steve, what about me?
I'll get help.
Steve! Steve, come back! Steve!
Burt Reynolds might have hated this Western, calling it so awful it was shown only in prisons and airplanes. But Tarantino's got a different take. He's called it one of the greatest revenge flicks of all time. The film follows Joe, a Navajo warrior, as he takes on the outlaws who massacred his village. Corbucci's trademark violence and gritty style are in full force here, and Tarantino loved the way Reynolds went full one-man tornado in this role. Tarantino considers Olans Raid one of the best westerns of the 1970s. Directed by Robert Aldrich, the film blends western and war movie elements, with Burt Lancaster leading a cavalry mission to track down the Apache war chief, Olans. The film's brutal take on frontier life and its subtext about America's involvement in Vietnam caught Tarantino's eye, making it a staple in his western list.
Why do you suppose they spared Mrs. Reardon?
Maybe they thought she was dead. Luzana, leave woman for you to find.
Lad, if they come back, promise me you won't let them take me.